Hi guys, welcome to another video with Coach Matt. Today we're going to be having a look at a rook and pawn endgame, and we're going to be exploring the power of the rook. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so if you have a look at this position, it looks like maybe white has a chance. I mean, he's got 5 pawns and we only have 1 pawn. We do, however, have a rook. So the rook is 5 points, the pawn is 1 point. That's 6 against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That seems like it's going to be pretty close. It's 5 against 6. It could be a tough game. It's not. The rook is exceptionally powerful, and we are going to see exactly how that plays out in today's game. Ideally, we'd like to keep this pawn, and I'm going to try my best to do that. Otherwise, if we do end up trading this pawn off, we are going to then checkmate with the king and a rook. I have done a couple of videos on checkmating with the king and a rook. In fact, I've discussed both methods, but king and a rook can be a little bit challenging, especially for our younger chess players. But if you guys are feeling like a challenge, have a look and investigate how to do that. All right, king and a rook, quite an exciting one. All right, anyway, let's get on to how we're going to win this game. Rook to the 2nd rank. Guys, remember the ranks are the numbers. We've got the 2nd rank, we've got the 5th rank, we've got the 8th rank. These are sort of the rows, if you like it in chess. The rows are referred to as ranks, and this is what the ranks are referring to. Okay, so the 2nd rank is where all the pawns are, or the 7th rank for black. And the rooks love this rank because he's able to access all of the pawns immediately. So this is a tough spot, and you're going to see this rook is just going to end up snacking on all of these pawns, and there's basically going to be nothing white can do about it. Let's see how this plays out. So if you move the C pawn, that means you're dropping the B pawn instantly. I'm going to try and get clever here and see if it helps. It's probably not. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to move the B pawn, knowing that they're going to take the C pawn, and then I'm going to run the A pawn, which is my hope. Black takes, white plays A4. Now you guys should immediately be looking, where can I move the rook where I can target these pawns? So this could be option number 1, where I target the pawn. Perhaps not the best move, because then they can push the pawn. And then the A pawn will defend the B pawn. Much better will be rook C4, and then again we attack sort of on the same rank, so it makes it very difficult. They move the one, they lose the other, and that's really what it comes down to. I'm going to play this one for good measure, just to really show you the power of the rook, and I can even play secondary moves and still be able to win the position easily. B5 as discussed, so now the A pawn defends the B5 pawn. No worry, I will go after my next target, which will be the A4 pawn. Again, I could do it with either rook A2 or rook B4. I'm going to go with this one. So I keep an eye on both pawns. If you were to try this, I would have the ability to eat that pawn immediately. If A5, which we're going to go with, then black just snacks on the B5 pawn. Guys, the most important thing is just make sure you don't lose your rook here. And everything will be cool. So A6, it looks like this pawn is en route to the promotion square. No, we don't want that. The rook comes behind the pawn and covers all these squares immediately. One more, and no. What happened? All 3 pawns chomped by the rook, just helped himself to those pawns without too much difficulty. All right, so what do we have left? We got king and 2 pawns against king, pawn, and rook. Let's see how that unfolds. So pawn here again. Go for the target. Identify a target in any and all positions, guys. You need to see, where am I going to attack? And if this is my target, cool. I'm going to start to bring the king in. G4. I think it's a good move, covering these squares, stopping the black king from making further progress. I am going to attack something. Seems like a good idea. I'm happy to do that. F5. He wants to save this pawn. Probably not a good move, but makes sense because he doesn't want us to just simply take the pawn. When he pushes the pawn, he says check. Guys, remember, you got to say check when it's check. Very important. And as always, when you're in check, you have to get out of check. Sometimes you can take. Sometimes you can block the check. And sometimes you just have to move out of the way, like in this case. And we see we've got a nice eye on this target. We've got two attackers already eyeing this square out. It looks like there's very little white can do. This pawn can't move. This pawn can't move. King's going to keep an eye, but it's not going to help. Rook takes g4. Rook f4 check, and hitting the pawn at the same time. A bit of a double attack of sorts. Taking the f5 pawn. Now, shouldn't be too difficult from here. We just need to find a way to march this pawn, and then we can probably just simply do a ladder. I'm going to move the rook. I'm just deciding, should I stick on the f file? I'm just going to go here. It's fine. And then let's just start marching the pawn. As long as the pawn is supported, I'm not worried. King here. Makes sense. He's got to try and stick around, but very little he can do. f3, king f2, king f4. King f1, king g3, king g1. Guys, just take a second. It looks like there's a mate in one in this position. I'm going to give you guys 10 seconds to see if you can find it. You could always just pause the video and have a quick look and then just see, can I find the mate? Mate in one for black. Well, congrats to those of you who found it. Let's just explore that one. That is rook e1 check. We can see, let's just make sure it's mate. The rook covers this square, covers this square. As well, the king covering these three escape squares. This is a done deal. It is checkmate, and that will be the game. I just want to show you guys how to promote here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play f2 just for interest's sake. I'm going to check the king. Wouldn't be very smart for white to go this way because then I just promote. Makes sense that he's going to have to go king f1. This allows me, now I just have to be a bit careful because then otherwise white's got no available moves here. I need to avoid the stalemate. I'm just going to give his king a nice square, which will allow me to promote. Again, making sure that that piece is defended by the rook. And this way, I'm, and not in any danger of losing my piece. King d2. First mission, cut him off. Let's do that with queen f3. And now I can probably just use my ladder. I'm going to push him to this side, which means I've got this one cut off. I need to somehow get the rook onto the second rank. Looks like this should do it. I go rook e5 and then rook e2. Pretty easy. You can come here. Again, I will make sure that this square is defended. Luckily for me, it is. I don't have to do anything. Queen defends the rook, so the king can't take. So rook e2 check. King must go to d1. And the finishing touches. Queen f1 mate. Many different ways to checkmate the king once you've got yourself into the right sort of position. Guys, this is one of those examples where you can sort of play through it with a friend or a family member if you guys have got that opportunity at home, and just practice it. I mean, this is a nice position just to explore the power of the rook in the open game, because we often see the rook sort of caged up and he doesn't have open files and lots of space to work with, whereas here he does, and it really can help you to master the use of the rook. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are looking after yourselves, staying safe and staying warm. Take care. Until I see you next time. Bye-bye.